All right, welcome back. The video you all been waiting for. Josiah Brandt from Brandt's Greenhouse on YouTube and me, Mark Clements, are going to tell you the top 5 things to grow a 1-ton pumpkin. Josiah has grown several. I have grown one, a 2,043 pound pumpkin. I believe Josiah's best is 2,185. Maybe, Josiah, how many have you grown? But please join us. We're going to tell you the top 5 things that you need to do to grow a 1-ton pumpkin, and we'll link this back to my other video, the top 5 things you need to grow a 1,000 pound pumpkin that were released a couple weeks back. We'll link it up. You should watch them both if you're into pumpkin growing. Okay, please join us today. All right, so now the difference between growing a 1,000 pound pumpkin and a 1-ton pumpkin is you must get more religious in your waterings. Typically on a hot summer day, it's 100 to 150 gallons of water on your plant from 600 square foot to 1,000 square foot plant. That would vary. 600 square foot plant, probably 100 gallons of water a day. And 1,000 square foot plant, you could be 150 gallons of water. Now that all depends on your soil. There is no cookie cutter recipes that you can use one guy's plan to fit everybody's. And I hope you're not looking for that because you won't find it. Everybody's soil is different. So with the watering, 150 gallons a day on a hot summer day. It's all dependent on the wind, how much wind, the temperatures. There's so many variables, whether the plant is using it. The best thing to do is the old Quinn Werner, stick your finger in the soil. You should feel moisture down, 2 or 3 inches down, feel some moisture. You should let the surface dry out. If the surface is constantly wet, you're looking for disaster. You're looking for trouble. You might get away with it, but I don't count on it. Benny Meyer, he grew 3 world record pumpkins in one season. He said you're better to lean on the dry side than the wet side. All right, so I'll take it from somebody who grew 3 world records in one season. Kudos to Benny. All right, now pHing the water, you need to pH your water. With growing a 1,000 pounder, probably not so important. But with a 1-ton pumpkin, pH your water. You can buy pH down, pH up, and adjust your waterings. All right, so pretty much that's it. You got to get a little more commitment. Growing a 1-ton pumpkin is a commitment. Growing a 1,000 pounder, you can still make the softball games, not miss any weddings. All right, now to Josiah in Wisconsin with number 2, vine training. Let's see what Josiah's got to say.
Number 2, vine training. Very important to have proper vine training if you're going to want to get a 2,000 pound fruit. We'll start with the patterns. There's different patterns of vine training, different styles. I'll use my training style, for example. I just use a common Christmas tree style, and I'll put a picture right here. Basically what I'm doing is I'm letting the main vine go, and I'm letting my secondaries, that's the vine that comes off the main vine, it's called a secondary. I let those grow. And I'm terminating the tertiaries that come off that secondary. So again, the vine pattern looks like this. And what I'll do is I'll let 18 secondaries grow behind the fruit, and I'll like to get 18 secondaries after the fruit. That gives me a total of 36 secondaries plus the main vine. That's what I strive for. And it's important that you bury those vines. The reason you want to bury them is because at each leaf node, where the leaf comes up off the vine, there's roots that'll come out on the top side and bottom side of that node. And by burying, you're encouraging that root to grow. And that'll give you a bigger root structure. You take up more water, you get a bigger fruit. It's important when you're burying those vines that you're gentle. You don't just want to throw them in the ground and you'll throw dirt over them. Be gentle, be diligent. Take your time and do a good job. I generally like to do 1 plant a day. That way I'm not overwhelming myself with work. Because it seems like if I do more than 1 plant a day, towards the last plant, I'm going quick, and a lot of times that when you go quick, you make mistakes, you break a vine. And it also helps if you bury your vines during the heat of the day. You get more flexibility. Generally, I'll let the vine grow about 3 feet, and then I'll put it in the ground. Then I'll let it grow another 3 feet, and I'll put it in the ground and bury it. That way, I'm keeping up with the burying process. It's important to know when to terminate your vines. You can't be growing vines and foliage the entire year. At some point, you need to focus on that fruit growth. For me, that's day 20. I like to have all my vines terminated by day 20. It's a mental note I have. Sometimes, it'll be day 25, but day 20 is ideal for me. What I'll do is, when I pollinate my pumpkin, once that pumpkin is day 10, I'll start terminating 2 or 3 vines a day with the goal of having all the vines terminated by day 20. I'll start with the oldest secondaries first, and the very last vine I terminate is the main vine. Some people will let that main vine continue to grow because they believe it produces a hormone that tells the pumpkin that it's alive and it should, continue to grow. I've always terminated everything because I want to focus all the energy to the fruit. All right, I'm sending you back to Mark now.
All right, I just saw the geese fly over. It's on the Mitchell farm, the 300-acre farm I'm growing this year. You can see the greenhouse in the back. We're building with repurposed pallets. Stay tuned for that video. That should be up in a couple of weeks as I complete the greenhouse. But now, number 3. Thank you, Josiah, for number 2. Now, number 3, disease and insect prevention. All right, that's huge. That's huge. Disease. Now, early on when the plants are little, I typically don't start hammering them with anything until about the 1st of June. I usually figure they're not gonna get much in May unless you're overwatering. Don't overwater. That's one of your biggest mistakes. Let your surface dry out. Let it dry out. But as far as insecticides and pesticides, that's a biggie. If you're going organic, good luck. I like that idea. If you go totally organic, but you're going to have your hands full. You're going to have to drown aphids and cucumber beetles. You're going to have to drown them in insecticidal soap. It's going to be a daily, every day go out and check for bugs, which I do anyways. If you use chemicals, there's some systemic chemicals like merit we use for the squash vine borer. If you're this side of the Rocky Mountains, east, we're in Michigan, east of the Rocky Mountains, the squash vine borer is your biggest enemy. It'll arrive about mid-June. It'll lay little grubs all over your vines and eat up the vines. Cucumber beetles will give you bacterial wilt. They have their little orgies all over the plants. It's disgusting. You gotta watch for bugs every day. Bug check. Look under the leaves, look under the cots every day. And then there's powdery mildew. If you don't want to use Eagle 20, which is a harsh chemical, then you need to work with calcium uptake. There's organic ways to do it. Calcium uptake will stifle powdery mildew. Harley Smith has some stuff. You could YouTube that, Google that, Harley Smith on calcium uptake stifling powdery mildew. All right, but you got to stay on top of the game. It's a commitment. You can't take 2 weeks off. You'll come back to disaster if you're shooting for 1 ton. So with that, if you have any questions more, wanting to know, hey, we use Talstar, Warrior. There's lots of different stuff. One fungicide that I really like is Heritage. Heritage fungicide is a very good. It was recommended to me by my friend Dave, who works at a nursery, multi-million-dollar nursery. For 30 years he did. And I love Heritage. Heritage is costly, expensive. You don't need much. You don't need much. A half teaspoon will do the whole plant. All right, so we're moving along. Moving along to number 4, Josiah is going to tell us about fertilizing and soil. All right, back to you. Back at you, Wisconsin, you big cheesehead.
Okay, the cheesehead's back. All right, we're going to be talking about fertilizing, soil tests, and tissue tests. I'm going to simplify it to make it very simple because tissue tests and soil tests, they're kind of this thing that no one really wants to give advice on, and there's tons of numbers, and it is complicated. It doesn't have to be complicated. When I'm looking at tissue tests or soil tests, I'm looking at 3 key nutrients. And those nutrients are what are going to be growing that fruit. I'm looking at the potassium, calcium, and boron. I want the potassium to be between 400 to 600 ppms in my soil test, and I like my calcium to be between 3,000 and 4,000 ppms. Boron should be between 1.5 and 3. Those are what I'm striving to hit. And those nutrients I'm micro-feeding in my drenches throughout the year. When I say micro-feeding, I'm feeding those nutrients every day at a micro dose, like 1/8 to 1/4 the strength of the recommended dose on my fertilizing products. So an example would be like growth product. I believe they are, which is a potassium product. They call for, like, we'll say they call for a tablespoon a gallon. Well, I'm probably doing a half teaspoon per gallon, but I'm fertilizing that constantly, like every single time. And the reason for that is if you do a full strength fertilizing dose and you do it once a week, well, you're adding so much water to the garden because the pumpkins take up so much water. You're just washing all that nutrients out. So you have to microdose it throughout the year so your plant can get those nutrients and they constantly have those nutrients. You're not surging it at one time. So again, simplifying it, when you look at your soil test or tissue test, look at your potassium, calcium, and boron. That's how you're going to achieve a 2,000-pound fruit. Take my word for it. Back to Mark.
I got to tell you, I'm loving the farm. I moved out here yesterday, totally moved out here, living in a small farmhouse out here on a 300-acre Mitchell farm in Holly. And I tell you what, it's Green Acres is the place for me. Farm living is the life for me. All right, land spreading out so far and wide. Here we go, number 5, pumpkin positioning and vine positioning. If you're gonna get to a 1-ton pumpkin, it is really critical that that pumpkin be positioned so that it can get that big without breaking off the vine. You have to have the ability also to probably slide it back. I've had to slide back numerous of mine. They'll get to 1,400 pounds, slide them back. I've actually set them back at 900 pounds. 900 pounds, and again at 1,400, then again, 1,800 pounds, you gotta slide them back if you don't have the perfect positioning, which you wanna have like a horseshoe. You wanna position the vine like a horseshoe. I can link this back to one of my videos showing you how the vine is positioned, but it's kind of like a horseshoe so that as the pumpkin grows forward, it's gonna grow as much forward as it does back. If the vine is too taut and straight, then it's gonna snap the vine. You gotta have some flex. Some call it the S-curve. Put an S-curve in your vine. And you need to have sand under your pumpkin, at least a minimum sand. I like to use like some Delta subfloor material. The material that they use in basements, they'll lay it down rolls. It's got like plastic nipples on it, and then they lay their plywood on top of that so the plywood's not in direct contact with the basement floor for moisture purposes. I like that stuff, but that's kind of overkill, and then I put sand on top of that. Keep the bottom of your pumpkin dry. Don't let the pumpkin end up having a corner of it setting in some dirt. There's bacteria in dirt, and bacteria will start the funky monkey going on your pumpkin. So you really gotta think it out, plan it out, and be prepared. I'll link this back to my sliding a pumpkin back with the chain fall. All right, come along, how to slide one back. But that's the next thing is fruit positioning. If you want to grow a 1-ton pumpkin, you better get on board and watch some of the videos on how to slide the pumpkins back, how to position the vines. Talk to some guys that have grown some big ones. Check out Moby Mike. Moby Mike's got a new YouTube channel going, and he's a really great grower, great guy. Check out his YouTube channel. I highly recommend it. Moby Mike on YouTube. All right, that's number 5. I want to thank you all for joining us today. I want to please, if you like the videos, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Check out Josiah's channel, Brandt's Greenhouse. He's given full videos this summer. You can follow him. He's a little more technical than I am. I'm more of a method guy. I'll show you methods like the elevated walk plank. I'm actually the first person that came up with the elevated walk plank that I know of to let the vines grow under the walk planks. If you go back to bigpumpkins.com and check it out, in 2010, 2011, I had elevated walk planks, and I believe that's the first documented use of them. Everybody else was laying there flat on the ground. The problem with that is you slide them around, you snap the vines, you break the vines, you're tearing up roots. Elevated walk planks, they stay put all season, no moving them around. All right, I'm rambling on. I hope you like the videos, and remember, join us. We got coming up soon, the greenhouse, building a greenhouse, a kin cave I call it, with repurposed pallets from the lumberyard. All right, thank you very much. And remember, keep it a secret, but go tell a friend. Bubba's sharing garden giant information around the world.